Welcome into another edition of Double Coverage. I'm Mike Emami.
And I'm Cymone Smith.
And we are back after a brief hiatus.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's been, 3 weeks since we've done this?
It feels like way too long, honestly.
Yes.
The last 3 weeks feel like a blur.
Yeah, I mean, it does, because we had Christmas, New Year's in there. We haven't been at this desk in a very long time.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen the Shockers play at home in a very long time.
And it wasn't really the return I think we were hoping for
No, it
them
was
to
not.
come back after the break for the first time back at Koch Arena and fall short in that game. Just 2 points short against Rice, one of the worst teams in the American right now. So that was definitely a surprising loss of 66-64, just a 2-point game. And it all came down to that final whistle. Wasn't called as a continuous foul, instead a foul on the floor. They shot bonus free throws, but they just couldn't come back. That was pretty surprising and thrilling finish. I mean, I'll say it brought the show, but not the end result that they were looking for.
I think a lot of fans were also disappointed because this is a Rice team that they really just had to beat. I mean, we were all expecting them to come out and win. I think they were 12.5-point favorites going into it, but nonetheless, Michael Gray, great performance on the court, double-double, all for naught, because even with that last shot, that half-court heave, or full-court heave, I should say, didn't go through. And as we're watching here, this is that final sequence, Asia, with that foul that was called on the floor, just killing a lot of the excitement that was at Koch Arena.
Yeah, and taking away that three, that was frustrating. Weren't able to get the putback basket to tie things up. So, I mean, it was great to see Michael Gray, though, have that kind of a day, that kind of performance. He was so valuable, but it's so interesting to think about it because every game it's somebody new, and we're still figuring out this team. We have to remember this is their first time playing together in the American, but each week it seems like somebody new. We remember before the Christmas break, it was Karan Boyd, who was having just back-to-back huge performances. TJ Williams had a period there where he was doing incredible. Both Boyd and Williams missed all of their shots yesterday. So that was incredible. That was crazy to see. Boyd 0 for 7, Williams 0 for 3. So just very shocking to see that happen in this game. Will Berg even 1 for 4. So, I mean, for the team to be shooting 29% in this game wasn't what we wanted to see. And I want to be clear, it's not about grit. This team has so much grit and so much passion, but it's really about just limiting mistakes early on.
Yeah, and the thing that they did clean up, which I was very happy about, was the free throws. They looked pretty good from the charity stripe. Michael Gray making 12 of 14. Okorafor making 2 of 3, and Karan Boyd making 5 of 6. So the guys, for the most part, did a pretty good job from the charity stripe. But when we talked about when it came down to making those long-range shots, just not able to do it. And that was a big part of the recruiting for this team, was the success from long range. And for them to kind of come out and get a double-digit win against Rice and make a statement after a really tough double overtime loss to Charlotte, where they did shoot pretty well, but they got really, really cooked on the back end of that second half.
I think that's what it is. It comes down to the second half. It seems like they're kind of hot and cold when they're able to find these standout performances and come out with a win. Like you said, that loss to Charlotte was insane, given that they were up by 18 points in the second half. So how do you blow that kind of a lead? It really comes down to those turnovers, those basic little mistakes. And, I mean, Coach Mills took a lot of accountability for the loss against Rice. He said, I should have done a better job preparing them for these players on the Rice team. I doubt he feels like he overlooked anybody, but still, I feel like he wanted to prepare them for what they were going to have to do to come out with a win. And that was just kind of, I feel like, what we're seeing. We do know they've been great at rebounding, offensive rebounding specifically, one of the best in the nation, and they're still one of the best. I mean, even after that game against Rice, 15 offensive boards. So that was nice to see, but if you can't turn those boards into points, then it's not really a winning strategy. And I think that's kind of where the issue we saw is they had all of these offensive rebounds, but some of them just still weren't turning into points.
And they better lead in the offensive rebound category. They got a 7'2" center in Will Berg and Okorafor. The other big guy, both of them are huge threats for the Shockers offense. And it's like either or. You got to pick your poison if you're the opposing defense, because you've got two guys down low that are taller than everybody right now. It's just not translating into wins. And I think they're missing just one or two key things, especially when it comes from that long-range shooting for them to get those shots to sink. And right now, they're just not falling. And that's affecting every aspect of the game so far.
Because they were in a deficit with about 2 minutes left. They were down 7, and that's not a position you ever want to be in. Now, through those final 2 minutes, they were forcing turnovers. They were hitting their free throws. They were drawing fouls, but it wasn't enough. Again, like you said, they have to hit the shots, and they have to hit them earlier than that. So I think as this team still continues to figure it out, we have to remember this is their first round of American games. Hopefully they don't fall into a hole and fall down to 3 straight losses. But, back-to-back, and hopefully that kind of lights a fire in them to try to come out and switch things up as they move forward and figure out how competitive this conference is and what it's going to take to win and make a hopefully deep run in the tournament.
It's shocking to see them kind of fall off in the second half, because in that non-conference stretch where you saw they were so good at making those adjustments, they would start slow, they would finish fast. Now they're kind of starting fast and finishing slow.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge problem early on in the conference slate, because when you start piling on losses, it affects your confidence down the road, and there's nothing more difficult than conference play in any realm of college basketball.
Absolutely. North Texas up next, coming up on Sunday. So hopefully things turn around. I know they're very serious about taking it one game at a time, never looking too far ahead. So this hopefully is the game that turns things around and puts them back in that winning column.
That game, a 2 o'clock tip-off. We're going to bring you the highlights on KSN News at 6, or at KSN News at 5 on Sunday. Yes, we do not have a 6 on Sundays, but yes, we'll bring you that on KSN News at 5. And I'm very intrigued to see how they come out against North Texas, because you just feel that there is a stronger sense of urgency now dropping this game and then even that Charlotte game, because that UAB game, they looked nothing like they had a struggle in that first half. They came back in the second half, and it all started with that Drake Hindle buzzer beater right into halftime, and they're just missing that spark. They missed it last night, and they missed it in that game against Charlotte. Hopefully that's able to translate at Koch Arena. The guy's still really good, though, at home, 7-2 on the season.
Exactly. So I think that energy is really going to translate, especially on the weekend. Wednesday game, not as much energy sometimes, but having a weekend game, hopefully the crowd shows up and they do get that energy they need from the fans.
Yeah, and speaking of uncertainties, Travis Kelce and the Chiefs are another thing that is uncertain, and they're kind of in a difficult period in a territory that's a little bit uncharted. They're in the offseason already.
That is crazy.
I'm sitting here and I'm going, what? Below 500, no playoffs, no Super Bowl, but that's where we are right now, and it's time to really start getting serious about the conversation with Travis Kelce, and is he in fact going to come back? We heard from Chris Jones a few days ago. He says there is no way in heck this guy is going to go out on this note. And we heard Travis on his own podcast kind of talking about how he's not really sure if he's going to come back or not, but he did shout out Chris. Didn't go too in depth with it, but shouted out Chris. He's like, oh, he's always got a positive attitude.
You want to know what I think?
What?
Even before Chris Jones said anything, even before Travis Kelce spoke up on it, I have never bought the fact that Travis Kelce is ready to retire.
Yeah.
Given the fact that he was still putting up the numbers he did through this season. 76 receptions, 851 yards, and 5 touchdowns at, 35 years old? Yeah. I mean, he is absolutely killing it still to this day. And like Chris said, I completely agreed. No one's going to go out on this type of note. I feel like as an athlete, if you know there's any potential left for you, you are going to keep on pushing until you feel like you've reached your peak. And he's still climbing up. He hasn't hit his peak yet. So he should completely be coming back and playing again.
I'm a little sad already because we're even having that conversation right now. And I hate it because this is a guy who's been in the league for so long. I remember Tony Gonzalez when he went out. And just kind of the nature. The tight end position is probably my favorite position on the football field. They are required to do so many things, from blocking to being, and part of that pass catching role. Sometimes they play hybrid. You see Kelce had a few rushing yards this year. So they really can do everything. And when you look at a man like Travis Kelce and being in the elite company that he's in with that 13,000 plus receiving yards that he now has in his career, to see him go at this stage on that note, it'd be a very sad farewell to one of the greats.
I hate saying this. I'm sorry. There's not a single part of me that's buying that he's leaving.
Yeah.
To see him go, to see all the fans mourning him. Oh, look at him coming out for his final game. Like, if I'm wrong, that'd be crazy. But to see everybody saying like, oh, congrats, thank you so much, Kelce. No, he is not done. You could still see the fire in his eyes. You could see it when he ran out on the field. Like, he still has the energy, and he is not ready to go. So, I mean, yes, when you look back and evaluate his career, he's done everything. It's not like he has anything to prove. He has the rings. He has the championships. He has the pro status. You know, he's an incredible athlete all time, forever. Hall of Famer and soon to be.
Yeah.
But I think if you think there's even an ounce of potential left in you, you're coming back, and he's going to still have Mahomes. They have the 9th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
So when you look at the way this team is rebuilding right now, I think they're about to reload stronger than ever. Because when you look at that, even last season with the Super Bowl loss against the Eagles, that wasn't their strongest team. So for them to be able to really rebuild this offseason, I think that's going to excite him and make him want to come back and return to go all the way once again.
And we'll get to the draft as we talk more on this show as we get closer to March. But I really think that right now, when we get in those spring months, that they really got to attack the offensive line. They've got to attack the receiving core. There's a lot of things that they can really build on. But I think protecting Mahomes has got to be first priority. I think everybody in the world hated seeing him go down with a torn ACL. But the amount of plays he was making on his own this year was wild. I mean, they had almost no running game.
Exactly.
And they had a hard time really opening up those gaps. I'm a big fan of Juwan Taylor. I'm a big fan of Trey Smith. I like what they've done at the guard and tackle position so far. They need to get more depth, and I think there's a lot they could do with the picks that they have. The 9th pick in the draft is crazy to me, especially when you consider the fact that there are so many skill guys available this year. I'm not, Veach. I don't know what exactly he's got up his sleeve this year. There's definitely a lot of holes and a lot of needs. So I think it'll be fascinating to see what he decides to do and what position he decides to attack first.
I think so, too. I'm looking for an offensive lineman or a running back. I think there's a lot of good options there. Also, when you consider trades, offseason trades that might be starting to happen, first person I think of is Breece Hall, maybe bringing him back to Kansas City. That would be incredible. But I really do think that it's going to be interesting to see what picks they do take, as well as figuring out the coaching staff moving forward. There's been a few coaching changes already for the Chiefs, and then we see Nagy and Spags doing head coach interviews, since 25% of the league right now is searching for a new head coach. Crazy for this to be happening early January. But interesting to see what changes are going to happen on the coaching staff and on the roster, and figure out exactly what pieces are going to be filled and what's going to be changed.
Cliff Kingsbury has become available from Washington as of a couple days ago, so we'll see. I mean, this is certainly an opportunity to reunite him with his college quarterback. I think he'd be a huge fan of that. And honestly, for me, I think it'd be cool to kind of see those two have a little reunion for next year. But yes, I think all the right pieces are in place. And I think Chiefs Nation has got to stay, Chiefs Kingdom, I should say, has got to stay positive right now. There is some light at the end of that tunnel that we can already see.
I think so, too.
I think so as well. All right. Well, that concludes the first half. We'll be back for the second, talking a little bit more college hoops right after this. Welcome back to Double Coverage. Michael Emami.
Asia Cymone Smith.
And we're talking now college hoops. We've got KU and K-State, both also opening their conference slates this past week. We'll start with KU. I think that's the most interesting storyline right now. Darren Peterson specifically is the most interesting storyline right now, because of how he had a career high plus 30 points on the floor. Didn't play a minute of that overtime game against TCU. Nevertheless, the Jayhawks crazily pull it off somehow, some way.
Yeah, I mean, as to be expected when KU's ranked. Hopefully they're not making these games as close. But it was very interesting to see Peterson's decisions after putting up a career high 32. I mean, those kind of numbers are just insane for him to be able to score that much, and then 3 minutes to go, asked to be subbed out.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. I'm sure that definitely turned a lot of heads.
Yeah.
He's been dealing with injuries on and off since early season, hamstring and cramping and limiting his minutes. There's all these questions about how healthy he really is and how much he really needs to protect himself. But I think 32 points is he did his job, and then from that point on, it should definitely be up to the rest of the players. They have the guys. They have Trey White. They have Flory Badungo. Lots of players who are making standout performances. But to see Peterson have to sit himself out, I don't know how that definitely made some people feel.
Yeah, there was some speculation online, but he could have been dealing with some serious cramping. When Bill Self talked, he said that he just couldn't go anymore after that second period. He was in for the last 5 seconds, drained the 3 clutch free throws to tie the game up at 87, and really after he was subbed out, the guys took it from there.
Yeah.
I mean, they really played solid in that overtime period, and you could just see how gassed TCU really was. After that, it was devastating and very similar, Asia, to that Wichita State game. Some controversy at the end is like, was the foul on the floor? Was the foul in the act of shooting?
Yeah.
The ball was off off a KU player's hands, but then it was off a TCU player's hands. They reviewed it off the inbound. They determined that it was KU's ball. So there was a little bit of controversy there at the end that Bill Self had talked about a little bit. It's very difficult, obviously, for these officials to sort of make these judgments in real time because they got 2 eyes just like we got 2 eyes. And when it's a bang-bang play, sometimes you got to take a second look at it to make sure definitively you got the right call.
Exactly. And KU's lucky, that this game did end up going in their favor. But they have so many deep players. And I think, again, people might be being too hard on Peterson. Like, granted, you want to see players who want to be in the game, want to play. But he does need to consider his health, especially when you're the number 1 draft prospect in the NBA draft. So those are important factors as well. And for him to have been able to put up this kind of performance, 32 points, and be a leading scorer in almost every game he's played in, still shows that he is doing his part. He's doing his part, and it comes down to the rest of the team following suit, which I think they are. I mean, they had some tough losses. They had that upset against UCF opening conference. That was pretty frustrating to see, given that KU has been ranked for most of the season.
Yeah.
So that one was a little bit of a head turner as well. But you know what? You make mistakes, you grow, you learn from them, and I'm glad they were able to pull this one off against TCU, and hopefully they don't have to be relying so heavily on Peterson, especially knowing, like Bill Self has been very clear, he knows that his health has been an issue all season long.
Yeah.
He knows they need to be playing him carefully, so they need everyone else to be on board, and I think that's kind of what we saw.
Yeah, and he said and really emphasized in that press conference post-game, he was very happy and excited and jovial that he obviously got the win, but he did say that the team is not used to playing with Peterson yet. They don't know how to play with him. Yeah. And it's crazy to think about because this is the McDonald's All-American. This is the consensus likely, first overall NBA draft pick. And, they got this star, this gold they've got on the team that they just don't quite know how to use just yet. And I think, the crowd got behind him in that game, and you kind of saw how he really transformed and how he affected the game on the court. But as of right now, that with the fact that he's been injured and he's been absent in these games, it's gotten very difficult for some of the other guys to really form a gel with him on the floor, despite of how talented and great he is when he's out there. I do want to acknowledge a couple things. Trey White, also with a great game. Melvin Council, 18 points, also a great game for him. And we obviously know about Badunga and the kind of threat inside that he provides. Got the game started with a huge dunk. The crowd went crazy. And when you trail 10+ with about 6 minutes to go, things look pretty bleak. And for KU, they somehow, as I said, found a way to dig down deep and get themselves back within striking distance at the very end. And the ball bounced their way, and they were able to take advantage of some key situations to put themselves in the right position to get the win in extra time. Exactly.
And you talked about figuring out how to play with Peterson and that strategy that they have to go through. And I think it's kind of funny to see that basically his strategy is just put everyone on his back. Right. And not intentionally, but that's just kind of, he's really good at shooting. He's really good at finding ways to score, hitting those free throws. Thank goodness it's him who gets sent to the line because he's talented at finding ways to score. And I say that jokingly, not he's actually putting people on his back, but when you look at the stats and look at the numbers, 32 points relative to everyone else is kind of a funny performance. So very interesting to see how they figure out how to allow everyone else to contribute as well outside of Peterson.
And this is a guy that, again, pretty much every time he hits the floor, he's leading the team in scoring.
Exactly.
So as I said, he's a gold mine. They've got to figure out how to play with him as they go down the stretch in conference play so far. If I'm a KU fan, though, how am I feeling right now? Number 22 ranked in the country. Good win against TCU. Obviously that affects the AP and how the coaches make decisions and what they would like to put up at the top. But if I'm a KU fan, I'm disappointed I'm not at 10. I'm not at 8. I'm not at 6. A lot of this talent right now is unproven. And when you've got guys, not just Peterson, when you've got like a Melvin Council, who's a guy who can go pretty much an entire game, and as Bill Self said in a press conference, never sits in timeouts. He's constantly standing because he has to be moving around. Just a little bit disappointing to not quite see them at the top of the heap just yet.
Yeah, and they dropped down after that upset against UCF, so they are slowly slipping down the rankings. But I believe that to still be ranked, this win in the season says a lot for itself. It's hard, and the Big 12 is a tough conference, and especially when you're still trying to figure out your roster and figure out how to make use of each player, I think it is difficult. And so for them to be sitting at number 22, I think that's a good sign. It's still early. 1-1 in the Big 12 right now. Next up, got to be heading to West Virginia. So I definitely think they have potential to still be successful. West Virginia also 1-1. However, KU, they have shooters, they have talented athletes, and I think right now it's about figuring out those details. I talked about it with Wichita State, but with KU as well, they're still going through the round of the first time this specific roster, is seeing every Big 12 opponent, and they have to figure out how to adjust to the play of this conference as things go on.
And West Virginia should be a win.
It should be.
It should be a win.
It should be, but
we've seen some wild and crazy things this year so far.
Exactly.
We don't want to talk about it. Yes, but they got to get back on the right track, and K-State has got to get back on the right track as well.
Yeah.
Tough loss. I mean, expected yesterday or earlier this week to Arizona, number 1 Arizona in that regard Wednesday. But it was deflating. It was deflating in that first half to see them trail by 15 plus. They came back, cut the lead into single digits. PJ Haggerty, obviously, very similar to Peterson, is always leading pretty much on the floor when he hits it. But just an overall tough game to drop against the number 1 team in the country. 101-76, the final score. I mean, you would hope at least that Jerome Tang's squad would be able to make a little bit more of a game out of this in that second half.
Yeah, I would think so too. And you can't let it come down to that second half. Like you said, trailing by that much that early in the first is not a good sign. It just makes the battle harder. So you have to make sure you stay in it. You have to make sure you're taking advantage of every possession. And Haggerty did a great job, but them not being able to come back and find a win has now put them 0-2 in the Big 12 right now. Right. They haven't gotten a conference win, and on top of trailing like that, that's also deflating, and it's frustrating to see because obviously no one wants to be in that position, suffering back-to-back losses after coming off the break. So it's going to be kind of an uphill battle for them as they kind of adjust and figure it out. 10-point loss against BYU in their conference opener. So I do think it's about figuring out what to do in the first to make sure that you never let yourself get that far behind where you're making it hard to come out with a win.
Yeah, and Koa Pete Wednesday had a huge game as well for Arizona, as predicted. He's one of the best shooters in the country right now. He's very consistent, huge threat outside the paint as well. So I think, when you have a team like Arizona, I'm not expecting this to necessarily be a win for this team. I think, K-State's still trying to find their identity. I was expecting them to make this a little bit more of a game, as I said, in that second half. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and now they've got the rest of the conference slate that they got to go into. But the BYU game, I was impressed. They played that pretty well, but again, it's just been not quite meeting expectations for this team. And I'll emphasize again, PJ Haggerty is basically K-State's Darren Peterson to an extent. I don't like using that phrase, but I have to, because I have to make that comparison with how successful he's been to start this year off. And we talked about carrying a team on his back. That's pretty much what he's done. And he had a crazy assist on Wednesday too, where it was from the ground. I've never seen anything like that, where he spun the ball to Nate Johnson, who made the 3-point shot from the bench. It was from 26 feet out. So, this is a guy that can pretty much do everything for you. Inside, outside, he's solid in terms of, cutting off the passing lanes on defense. He has really been a huge spark for K-State, and I would like to see this team start stringing together some wins down the stretch because they have the people, they have the capability to do that. Right now, it's just not happening, and on Saturday, they've got a big game at ASU, that one at 2 o'clock, and we're going to bring you those highlights as well Saturday night. So, Asia, I'm really excited to see how conference play has really split out for all these teams, but I think when you look at KU, K-State, Wichita State, any basketball team in the nation right now, finding their identity is something that has to happen quickly at this point of the year.
I think so too. And, you know, like you said, we can't overlook K-State's effort in that game because they're going against the top team in the nation.
Right.
And Arizona was going to be a tough battle. They're undefeated so far this season. And really, that's going to be the story as we look ahead through Big 12 play because 4 of the top 10 on the AP poll right now are in the Big 12. That's
right.
A tough conference. Iowa State also undefeated, so top 5 ranking in the nation. So, you know, this is going to be a tough battle for K-State who's looking to get over that hump and find some wins. So hopefully as they take on their next game, they are starting to put those pieces together because it's going to be, it's never an easy challenge, especially when you're in a conference that's playing this well right now.
And a little quick tease. But the Sunflower Showdown is just over 2 weeks away. Saturday, January 24th, KU meets K-State. I'm very excited to see PJ Haggerty square off against Darren Peterson. Hopefully he's healthy in that game from Manhattan. So that should be a lot of fun to see KU make a trip to the land of purple in a Little Apple to go up against that group.
That is actually crazy to say because I remember the date January 24th, but to say 2 weeks, I cannot believe it's coming up so soon.
Right
so that's,
around the corner.
That's definitely something that we will be looking forward to because, like you said, those guys, something about the Peterson and PJ, you know, I feel like they're gonna be exciting to see. Hopefully, we get to see them clash on the court.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting time, and we thank you again for joining us here on Double Coverage. Always great to bring this to you. We'll see you next week, same place, same time. Thanks so much for joining us. Peace out.